Hello and welcome to some of my friends read comics. We've got Vince.
Or maybe a very patriotic pickpocket.
Okay. Oh, maybe. We've got Chris.
Hey, I may be the Norse god, but don't push it.
Okay. And I'm Kia. Hi, welcome to the show. We're reading, we're reading Fear Itself. I don't know what it is. We'll talk about what it is. I've read it.
The only thing we have greater to fear.
Oh boy. So Fear Itself, 1 through 7 from, what year was this? 2009?
2010 to 2011.
Okay, great. By Matt Fraction, art by Stuart Immonen. A very Thor, Asgard heavy event that happened with a ton of times. We're reading the main book, number 1 through 7. And then, of course, at the end of the show, we are continuing our read of the Avengers Korvac Saga. We are on issue 171. Still feels like it hasn't gotten into the Korvac Saga. This is more of an Ultron story. So we're really just going to talk about kind of a random Avengers Ultron book. Yeah. All right.
And
But,
never has it been more obvious that a crossover started as a Captain America and Thor crossover, and they're like, why couldn't this be all of the Marvel comics? Why couldn't we sell 140 books or whatever it is?
Yes, Fear Itself is a far-reaching book that has fights and fear. I have no idea what. Okay, we should. Okay, I don't know how to start talking.
Okay,
about it.
so this is the. So it's April. It's April Fools.
Yes,
we've been teasing this as like a bad comic, like a historically bad comic. I don't know if it's a historically bad comic. We'll get to conclusions there, but it's definitely the last Marvel event I read. Like I'm done. I don't need to read any of these ever again. Like I read House of M, Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I was gonna say the crazy thing is it's better than the last two event comics that Marvel had put out.
I think that's why it was though, because we're on record as hating Secret Invasion. I know a lot of people love it, and then Siege was like, oh, okay. I mean, at least it was
even read it.
It's bad. We'll read it for April Fool's Day next year.
Or
when the TV
show
show
so badly
comes out.
paced.
Bad.
That last issue of Secret Invasion is like a parody. It's so bad.
Yeah, and then Siege was it's saving credit was that was only 4 issues. So I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I liked Bendis at the time, but he was pushing it by 09, 010 for me. And then this one's like, okay, well, Matt Fraction's getting his own event. He writes the Iron Man comic. He did Casanova. He did Iron Fist. I think he's going to write The Ship. This is going to be a good event. Stuart Immonen is a great writer, a great artist, and he's on time, which has been the issue for like Civil War and a few other Marvel events lately. So it's like, this is all going to work, guys. And then it's like, it's going to be tying in like a lot of things from Brubaker's Captain America run. So Sin, who we covered a couple episodes ago, the Red Skull's daughter. Spoiler alert, she's going to be a big villain. Not just a normal person. I'm like, okay, cool. This is culminating in some stuff. This is going to be a really exciting event. And I think the fact that it's so underwhelming is what really like poisoned the well. I'm like, fuck this shit. That's probably
I mean, it does use characters from Brubaker's run, and he writes like the number 0, like the prequel issue here. But to say that it's a continuation of that story is also like, is it?
Well, it kind of is, because it's starting with Bucky Cap,
sure,
and it's getting us out of Bucky Cap.
All right, I guess so. So did y'all read the like 0 issue, the Book of the Red Skull?
I'm sure
it came in the trade that I was reading.
Yeah,
it was
it's better than the actual event.
It is. It doesn't feel like an Ed Brubaker book. It's written by Brubaker with art by, I didn't write it down. But it doesn't feel like anybody wrote this book though. It feels like here's the steps and here's what's happening, and this is just
the
like
art was done by Scott Eaton, your friend who we're talking about.
Hey, we were just talking about Scott Eaton. Yeah,
I'll bring him up later.
So yeah, the prequel here starts with Baron Zemo and Sin, who we were just talking about, the Red Skull's daughter. They're getting some book the Red Skull used to have, and it's like a blue book that's like. You're right. It is better.
Value.
God, it is so much better than the main series. It wasn't memorable at all to me when I was reading it, but now that I'm looking at it again, I'm like, yeah, there was some cool stuff on in this, and it just like didn't come to fruition at all.
Well, part of it is because Sin is a more interesting villain than this serpent guy.
Way more interesting.
Yeah, this is a classic comic situation where like I think also expectations of like where this story's going to go, and then it swerves because like I mean, the book is Sin has got. She's looking for like stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark that's going to help her win the war and take over the world. That's some cool shit.
Yeah.
Let's do
I
that.
like
She's
it.
going to give her a power boost, and then she's going to take over the world. Cool. I'm on board. Nazi shit.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
And we get this issue is mainly flashback to when the Red Skull first found all this stuff, and he summoned some monster, and Cap and Bucky and Namor were there, and they fought it. But then also they found a hammer, and it's not exactly like Thor's hammer. It's a different kind of hammer, but it's got like the equal kind of idea of only the worthy can wield it. And I'm like, all right, there's more of these. That's pretty cool. What an interesting idea right off the bat that there could be more of these hammers that will transform you into an Asgardian god. What a premise.
Yeah.
That's
Although
great.
I do wish it was other, it should be single edge swords, two-hand swords,
Yes.
spears, all kinds of different
Nunchucks,
builds.
sais, bows.
Yeah, all the different builds
Yeah.
you could have in a game like Elden Ring.
Oh,
I've been
shit,
playing
yeah.
Exactly. I've been playing Elden Ring. I just got the Wolverine claws. They're fucking great.
Yeah, exactly. don't
There
don't
should
limit
be
yourself to just
Wolverine
hammers.
claws, but would you give them to Wolverine or would you give them to somebody else?
Oh yeah, maybe Sabretooth.
great-
Or Dokken.
Could pick up the
Oh,
No.
who?
Okay.
Who'd you say, Vince?
Son
Doc.
of Wolverine, Wolverine's son from this era.
Oh, I thought you said Doc Ock, and now I'm imagining Doc Ock with 8 tentacles that each have Wolverine claws at the end of them. Man, what a
That'd be pretty cool.
So back to this comic, which is not near as cool. We have Sin double crosses Zemo, takes his hover ship, takes the book. We never even see Zemo again. He's one of my favorite characters. What a bummer.
Yeah, and I liked his status quo at this point where he wasn't quite a true villain. Like I think he trended more towards being a villain, but the last 6 or 7 years of Thunderbolts and everything after that, he's kind of sometimes he's doing his own thing, sometimes he's helping the bad guys, and then it seems he's not. Don't worry about him. He's not the important.
He's nothing. What a bummer. All right, but on to Fear itself, #1. Right off the bat, people are rioting and protesting on the streets about building something. There's going to be something being built, and these people don't want it built.
This part super sucks.
And Cap,
they won't say what it is.
They won't say what it is. And Captain America and Sharon are there, and Sharon's like, boy, it looks like a riot's about to break out. This protest sucks. And Cap's like, this protest is just democracy. But then the riot breaks out, and Cap's like, man, I hate riots.
And then he helps the cops. The cops kind of start the riot, and then he helps the cops.
Oh, man.
It is Captain America at his most lib, where he's like, we can vote our problems away, can't we? And it's like, what are you talking about?
Come on, Cap.
But anyway, what I don't like about it from a writing standpoint is it's so mealy mouthed, because he won't say this is about a Ground Zero mosque, but he also won't make it about something else. He won't say oh, Simcaria is building something,
Is this not about? So later we learn that they're also building a new Asgard on Earth. This isn't that.
No, this is in New York. So this is so clearly supposed to be the Ground Zero mosque, but they won't say what it is, and it's also right around the time of Occupy happening, and so it's just it's really lame both sidesism from the writer.
I was thinking it was gonna be this stuff, and then I was like, no, it can't be. They'll mention it if it is, and we never came back to it, and I forgot. Jeez.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It's supposed to be whatever you want it to be a protest about. So we're reading it I wonder what they were protesting, but they beat around the bush so much that it means nothing.
It is, it's in the grand Marvel tradition of this is. I don't think you understand how protests work at all.
Yeah. So off to a different scene. Sin, who's still kind of in this comic at this point, she invades a Nazi base, finds this old hammer that they had, and we learn that the Red Skull and Hitler were both unable to lift this hammer, but Sin saw a dream, a prophecy, that she would kill Cap with it, and she is able to lift it. It's she transforms. It's not even Sin anymore. It is Scotty. And I guess she's the main villain now. She's like an ancient Asgardian. What do they call it? The breaker of something. Everybody's a breaker of something or other. What was she? Breaker of something.
Breaker of hearts. No, she's not the breaker of hearts.
There's another one.
Yeah, you're confusing this with Organization 13. It's an easy mistake to make.
So meanwhile, There's a scene where Cap and the rest of the Avengers are like looking at the protests and they're like checking for scans of like a villain like messing with the audience and like messing with their brain waves, and they're like, no villains behind this. It's just humans being humans, man. And Cap's like, damn, humans being humans or whatever. So much of this didn't jump out at me. I'm just like, this is what I'm picking up as I go through here. Tony also decides this is when he's like, hey, Cap, I'm designing a city for the Asgardians. You should come be there at the press conference for me. We can rehab your image as Captain America because you're like old and irrelevant now.
Well, so spoiler alert again for our Captain America. We've been reading this run and we'll be continuing it into next year. Brubaker's run. Captain America has died and come back at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
So he is not Captain America right now. He is.
Wait, is Bucky Captain America?
Yes,
No,
which is going to be a big focus of the post Captain America comics of who will wield the shield. Will it be Falcon or Bucky? Spoiler alert, it's Bucky.
That's a good rhyme. Wield the shield. Was that on?
Yeah,
the
that's a Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, it was.
Jeff Loeb came up with that.
Good. Jeff Loeb did that. Never mind. I hate it.
Wow, are you sure Jeff Loeb did it? It wasn't 12 parts and based around holidays. I don't know.
So so many different will wield the shield in every holiday. Some dude and his family are moving out of Broxton, Oklahoma.
Because at this point, the Asgard had crashed or fallen apart, and all the Asgardians were living in Broxton, Oklahoma. This is a John Michael Straczynski thing, which was supposedly good.
You think this book could have laid that out a little better for me? Jesus,
it was their status quo, I would say, for 3 or 4 years before this.
Yeah.
Fine.
And the legacy of that is that's why Thor 1 takes place in Oklahoma.
Right. And if you remember in Civil War, there is no Thor. So Thor comes back during that J. Michael Straczynski. They're all in Oklahoma.
Was he like a robot, a clore? Was that what they called him?
Yeah, as a clone. And they killed Bill Foster, Goliath 2 or whatever he is.
Everybody's best friend.
Who was he? Was he Lawrence Fishburne in the MCU? I think he was somebody.
Yeah, it was Lawrence Fishburne. That's right.
Anyways, my biggest complaint about this book is that nothing is framed well. I have no idea why anything is important. And I'm reading this scene about Broxton, Oklahoma, and I get it. I could have been reading the continuity at this time, but you could have mentioned a little more about it. Like, give me some reason to care. I thought this was.
To be fair, it's not coming back. This plot point will never return in the story.
It never returns.
Does.
The city does, but this is like
happens.
I guess
there's a big story, like this guy, and he's lost his house and he's moving out and he's not happy with his life here in this little town, and he's like, you know what, I'm moving out, and he's giving a pretty heartfelt goodbye to his neighbor. The wife is talking about how they've got some plans in a different area, and I really thought it was going to be more important. This is the most emotionally I was connected to anybody in this book, and then nothing. Okay, so meanwhile,
that is the payoff at the end, but it is funny. I mentioned Stan Lee earlier. This book really could. I mean, and I know why they're doing it this way. It's because Mark Millar wrote Civil War this way, of just like action figures just bumping into each other. Mm-hmm. But it's like it could use like a Jonathan Hickman or somebody to like set the stage. You don't need to be Stan Lee, but like you could at least tell us, like, have an intro page that actually explains what's going on and what the status quo is. Like, have material. Even have like Nick Fury files or something at the end of the first issue that's giving you like supplementary material that's explaining to you like what's going on.
Right.
Like
stuff I really like needed
that,
some of that.
Stuff like that. Hickman's Future Foundation was so good about giving you, he'd give you this like 18-page story because it's like whatever editorial constraints or whatever, but then he'd have like 5 pages of just text. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, oh, okay, well at least I know what's going on. Whereas Fear itself, I mean, I'm not saying it has to be like overwritten, but it's like it's all just like widescreen, Mark Millar style like action, and it's just like okay, but it's just exhausting at a certain point.
Well, it is, and also like I think he is talking about that there's no emotional connection to any character or hero in this book.
Yeah,
like Spider-Man is in the background of a lot of panels, doesn't say a single word. I don't really even get what, like, Cap and Iron Man are the most talking in this issue. But, like, the next issue has, like, here's your main characters, and it'll be, like, Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi doesn't say a goddamn thing in this book. Maybe, like, 2 lines.
Shang-Chi was in this?
Yeah. It's all like utilitarian.
It's a Thor Cap Iron Man crossover, but yeah, they don't do a very good job of explaining like, no, these are the three main guys. Like,
right.
And they should, because like, again, those are the guys that this is affecting their status quo. It's the writer of two of those books.
I don't know, what was Fraction writing Thor at this time with
I think
Kubrick?
so.
Because that's what Thor 7.2 at the end is. Yeah, but definitely he was writing
maybe
Iron Man at this. He was writing Iron Man at this time.
There's somebody was writing, Kieran Gillen was writing Journey into Mystery, but that might have been a separate book at that point.
That could have been a Loki book at that point.
Yeah.
But definitely Fraction was writing Iron Man at this point.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, in terms of emotional connection, I don't want to say I was at all connected to Odin, but at the very least, he shows up in the next scene here, and I guess we do get like his point of view more than any other character, if that makes sense. He and the Watcher are watching this press conference about how they're gonna rebuild Asgard, and the Watcher says nothing and just like kind of turns and walks away. And like, it is fun to see Odin get just increasingly pissed off by the Watcher. Like, I ain't gonna stand here and be watched by you in silence and be judged. Get out of here, you asshole! And just yelling at him. It's great. And then Thor walks in and he's like, Dad, what are you yelling about? And Odin keeps yelling at Thor. He's like, hey, I hate the idea of working with the humans. They are below us. They are nothing. They are shit. And I could snap my fingers and build an Asgard. And I don't know why we're letting them help us build an Asgard. And Thor's like, hey, this is, just, part of the community building process of connecting humans and gods again. And Odin's like, fuck off. You're going to pick these humans over me? And Thor's like, yeah. So Odin leaves.
This is a very intense Odin.
Yeah.
It's a very intense Odin, yes. I don't know why he cares so much about this, but I get it.
It's funny, too, because so much of this is like they're trying to, in a way, this is happening after the Captain America movie has come out, or right around the time.
No, it is not, because because basically Brubaker was, I guess the editorial mandate is make Steve Rogers Captain America again by the movie, which would have been mid 2011, which we're not at yet.
Right, so Thor would have just come out then, right?
Thor was May 11, and Cap was August 11.
Okay, so it does come out during these books then. But yeah, it's like the status quo is so unfamiliar, and like Odin is so, if you handed this to somebody who's only seen Thor 1, 2, and 3, they'd be like, what the hell is wrong with Odin? Like, why is he like this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like, that's just I guess what it is. He's very rude. He's got a bad attitude. And
he's rude with a bad attitude.
Well, and exactly. Since this book ends up being about the sins of the father, like, I think it would make sense to contrast him with the villain that's going to show up later, and they don't do a good job of that. Like, he's portrayed the exact same.
Like, he like later he's like sad that his son is dead. Spoiler alert: Thor dies. But it's so like he doesn't really have a moment where he's like, oh, I'm doing this for your own good, even though he is, because he's just like, there's a prophecy, blah blah blah. But it's still from such a like self-interested and crappy place that it's still, Anthony Hopkins can really phone it in sometimes. But him in Thor 3, when he's talking to Loki and Thor, like, from beyond being dead, like, that is a more emotional Odin than I think any Thor comic ever.
Yeah.
Damn. Do you think we'll ever get like a full Odin movie starring Anthony Hopkins?
Probably not. I think he literally did phone in that final scene though from Thor Ragnarok. Like, I think it was a reshoot of him like on a green screen because there's nobody else in that scene. But
it's a good performance though. Like, that scene where he is able to show that he loves his sons and is able to kind of give Thor a pep talk. I'm like, that's the Odin that like Marvel never was able to figure out. Like, they constantly just have him fall asleep for like years at a time to write him out of the book. I'm not kidding. It's called the Odin sleep.
It's accurate. So we talked about this counterpart to Odin. So next scene is it's not Sin, it's Scotty, and she Skadi. I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying Scotty, like Scott E. Skadi goes down under the water and finds like a temple that has is this the serpent guy in it?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that a serpent? They call him the All-Father, and I never actually connected that he was the serpent. But they did mention a serpent a lot. I think that one's on me because I was very disinterested at this point in the book. But they kept calling him the All-Father, and I was like, wait, is that Odin? And I got a little bit confused because it doesn't look too far off of Odin, but it's not Odin. Don't be confused.
Yeah. It's weird too because Thor's fought the Midgard serpent before, and they're like, no, this is the serpent. And it's like, wait, like how many serpents are there? How many Ragnarok is this place gonna have?
Right, and also it doesn't help that Odin was just a massive villainous dick who like picked up his son by the throat and threw him 3 pages before to then be like,
took his hammer away.
This is the old guy that you should be afraid of that's drawn the same way. Like it's
called the All-Father. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he looks more haggard. That's how you know he's bad.
He is more haggard. So they're having a big party now because I guess after this press conference, the gods and the humans and the Asgardians are like, yeah, we're going to work together, have a big feast. Heimdall tries to warn them about the serpent being back. And Odin shows up and is like, nope, party's over, Asgardians. We're going home. And he also takes away the power from Thor's hammer, and like they drag him off and put him in a prison, right? Jeez, yeah. Rude.
All the other Asgardians are basically like, look, we don't have our own comic book, so we're powerless to do anything about this. We just do whatever Odin says.
Yeah, a bunch of pushovers. And then the serpent, meanwhile, talking to Scotty, says, "Hey, we're gonna make everyone fear us. And I'm going to summon some help from the worthy from outer space or something." And we see like these 7 or 8 flying objects landing on Earth. I can't remember if this is the end of issue 1 or into issue 2 here, but we are getting into issue 2.
Yeah, it just says like, Cap, what happened? The gods left us, Spider-Man. We're on our own.
Whoa,
so I guess Spider-Man does have a line in this issue, but it's very utilitarian. Anyone could have said that. Mockingbird could have said that.
Anyone could have said that. Yeah.
God, does Mockingbird have a line in this whole book? I don't think she does.
Mockingbird? I don't think so. So meanwhile,
recently back from the dead, and they're really pushing her.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these things are landing from outer space in different areas, and I feel like issues 2 through 3 are just vignettes of all over the place. There's a bomb. One of these things lands in the raft where Juggernaut is being kept prison right now.
Well, he's on the Thunderbolt, so he's a good guy, but he's in.
Oh, he's a good guy. I'm sorry. He was at the raft.
Yeah, because the Thunderbolts at this point, this is post Warren Ellis run, now worked from the raft. That's right.
I see. Thank you. Nice of you to lay that out for me, Book.
Yeah. It's basically just Suicide Squad, though. So they are like working off their sentences more or less. But he's still on the side of good guys, and then he's being turned evil. I thought this was. I forgot this book came out before Avengers versus X-Men because like this is literally the exact same thing. But apparently, Avengers versus X-Men was 2012, where they literally did the exact same thing with it. Like, what if we just dropped Phoenix forces on people? Yeah. Everybody's a Phoenix.
And you know what?
I'm fine with
That's cool. The fact that it's like Juggernaut gets a Thor hammer or an Asgardian weapon. Yeah. Sweet. But then it's like he's Kurth, breaker of stone. So is he Juggernaut or is he just an evil Asgardian in a Juggernaut costume? In which case I'm less interested.
Well,
I would go ahead.
I don't like it because I know, that it's not like the Juggernaut's going to stay this way forever. Like what's her name? Titania. She was literally created during Secret Wars, which we read. And that's just an example of just making a character out of nothing and being like, she's in this event now. Here you go. Mm-hmm. You could do that. Like, why not? Like that scared bald guy. Like, why can't he find a hammer? But no, it's all just like, no, it's the gray, gargoyle. He gets a hammer. He's one of the worthy. It's like, really? Because it seems like he's a crappy Iron Man villain.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I was very into this idea at first, but it like there was no emotional connection to any of it. Like you mentioned, Titania gets one of these hammers and turns into a thing. Do I remember anything about what happened to her though?
That's because there's 2 Avengers books also covering this over the 7 months. There's Fantastic Four, There's Spider-Man. This is Iron Man. I'm sure it's broken out into one of these books.
Yeah,
I get
there are literally hundreds of these books if you want to go find out what happens to her. But it's just
That's
like, then why
fine.
is it in the main book?
Right.
Exactly. That's
because
the
you're
thing. Why is it
selling
in
the other
main
books.
book?
Like,
Why
go
is
find
there
out
a
more of these
focus?
things. Yeah. But like,
Then put a little caption saying, "Go continue this over here," so I know.
But it's my emotional connection because I am emotionally connected to Sin. I think her character arc is interesting, and the idea that Sin is suddenly going to be as powerful, she's going to achieve what her dad could not. But it's not her; it's somebody in her body that's Scotty.
It's weird.
So I don't care, and I don't care about somebody in Juggernaut's body or the Thing's body or kind of the Hulk's body because it's just them in a costume, and it's not suddenly them kicking ass and getting a power upgrade and then doing something with it.
It's not even like, again, to go back to other event books we've done, it's not even like, the Magus storyline where it's like, oh, they're like doppelgangers are taking over and it's like their dark side or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like literally they just talk gibberish. They don't even talk anymore.
They literally become less of a character. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not even like when the Hulk becomes the breaker of whatever. It's not like he's suddenly like a new Hulk persona that's like, oh, now he's like super vicious, which I feel like they've already done with Hulk. But whatever, it's not like something where you're like, oh, what a strange new direction for the Hulk. Which this book, I guess, one of the epilogues is like, oh yeah, this is about the Hulk too, even though it's not at all.
So Hulk gets one of these things. Him and so I guess Betty Brant is a Hulk at this point.
Not Betty.
No,
Brant.
sorry, not Betty Brant. Betty
Ross.
Thank you, Betsy Ross. Betty Ross.
Betty, Liv Tyler's character.
Yes.
Also, who played her in?
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly played her in the Ang Lee one. Liv Tyler played her in the. Movies.
And Norton.
R.I.P.
But
William
she's
Hurt, because he was in that movie.
Oh yeah.
He was a Red Hulk at one point too.
Yeah, General Ross was the Red Hulk.
Right, you're right. But currently, Betty is a Red Hulk, and her and regular Hulk are hanging out. And Hulk is like, "Hey, what's this hammer? Now I'm Null, breaker of worlds." There's a lot of people going, "Oh my God, there's so much chaos. Where are all the heroes?" And I'm like, "Where are all the heroes? Is there something keeping the heroes from helping? What is going on?"
Especially with what happens next with Scotty and her blitzkrieg.
I don't remember what it is. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
She basically attacks Washington, D.C. and blows up everything.
Yes. Yes, she's having... Yes. This damn book. All right. Fear Itself, number 3.
But at this point, it's a pretty standard Marvel event, although I think it's like doing things dumb.
It's very difficult to read, I think. I just had such a hard time reading this, and like I was just yelling at this book as I was reading it, just yelling, what is going on?
Were you tapped out of modern Marvel continuity by this point?
Oh, 100%. I was done. Like I said, I never read Secret Invasion. I was done after Civil War, I think, or near after that.
This is about my end. This is about where I'm done, like reading every book. This might have been this is the one that broke me. I've said that.
I'm breaking just reading it years later here right now. It's breaking me.
Yeah, I never finished. I started Avengers versus X-Men and just gave up on it. I was like, I don't care what happens.
All right, so Fear Itself, number 3. Loki busts Thor out of this Asgardian prison. He's like, "Yeah, Dad's gone nuts. We gotta do good stuff."
This is the issue that has Shang-Chi and its character lineup.
I wrote my note that I wrote here was fight scenes that don't appear to have any importance.
This also does not establish that Bucky is Captain America. So if you're not familiar with the continuity,
they never mention it. Oh my God!
I mean, you've seen Cap in his shield costume, so it doesn't look like regular Steve Rogers. But they never explain.
How difficult is it to set a stage? My God, Matt Fraction.
Yeah, just have like Black Widow talking to Bucky, like as Captain America before the fight, like one page of this.
Or just say, "Buck, what should we do?" You could just write that over that, like. He says, "Widow flank right." He's like, "Gotcha, Buck." That's all she has to say.
Yeah.
Ben Grimm picks up a hammer and he's transformed now. Oh no, he's a monster. Asgardians are having a secret meeting about Odin. They're like, dang, Odin's gone nuts, hasn't he? And then Thor shows up because he's out of prison. And then Odin shows up and he's like, hey, y'all having a secret meeting over here? Well, listen, Thor, I'm gonna give you your hammer back and send you away so you can oppose me, or something like that. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he's like, I want to go back to Earth to help, and he's like, fine,
Oh
be a baby, and sends him back to Earth, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, like, didn't you just lock him up for that? But whatever.
We should mention too.
You're very inconsistent sometimes. Being a parent, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know
true.
what I said.
It's true. You can't parent Loki the same way you parent Thor.
That's fair. That's fair.
Vince, which of your children would you say is the Loki?
Yeah, which one's the Thor?
Diana's definitely Loki. She is.
Okay.
She's a trickster. She's got me wrapped around her finger, and she does whatever she wants and does not give a fuck. And then Bruce is a good rule follower for the most part.
Good.
Okay.
He's a good
Yeah,
kid.
that makes sense. He is the oldest, so yeah, he's the Thor. So the other thing though is that Odin and all the Asgardians are written so ridiculously out of character. Like I don't expect them to all be saying like zounds, what strikes yon hammer? You know, you don't have to have that like old English, but it's like it's so weird to like read Odin like confronting Thor, and he's just like so angry, and like it just doesn't sound like Odin at all.
Yeah. So what happens? We get another big battle. This is a big one because Scotty and Cap are meeting in battle. And Scotty rips off Captain America's robot arm. Did you know he had a robot arm?
If he was Bucky,
I did.
This
yes.
is when I was like, oh yeah, it's Bucky, I guess.
Oh, that was Bucky.
You still
We've been over this, haven't we?
We've been over it like now. Like if I thought, listen, there's so much happening, and I just okay. So that was Bucky. That makes sense. This makes more sense to me now. Also,
Has Shang-Chi
like,
said any lines yet? By the way, for him to be pulled off in that character thing.
He might have kicked a robot or something.
I don't know. Okay, so the thing is, the problem is I use Captain America so much when I'm just like referring to Steve Rogers because that's how I think about him. And so when I think Captain America, again, I blame it on this book for not ever establishing that Captain America is really Bucky right now. And like differentiating between them. God damn it! And they're so mad at you.
I remember when Dick Grayson was Batman, or when like
around this time.
Yeah, or Ben Reilly was Spider-Man in DC versus Marvel, and they just didn't say anything. They're just like, we'll just let people think it's Peter Parker. We'll just not say his name. So it works well when somebody reads it years later or as a neophyte. Like you could have just done that.
That's one thing. But like, there's also stories where somebody has very recently taken up a mantle, and it's a big you just like are constantly mentioning it to remind people of what the hell is going on because that's comics, and you
either have to remind them or just ignore it completely and not make it fine so that you just interpret it with Steve Rogers. But the fact that he has a robot arm and they never said Bucky beforehand,
right? And they never had Steve Rogers Cap and Bucky Cap in the same room talking to each other, which would have also gone a long way because like if Bucky Cap is like there in issue 1 whenever they're like having that riot or whatever, where he's like, oh, it should have been me out there. Like then you at least are like, oh, okay, so this is a different guy who's Captain America right now. Again, a very
they did have Steve Rogers run into this battle and then show Captain America or Bucky in Captain America's costume in the next page, and I think that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is. But it took till page 19 for me to realize that.
Right, but I'm saying in issue 1 you could have set that up since Steve Rogers. I'm doing the same thing he is talking about. Since Steve Rogers book. Since Steve Rogers Cap.
Yeah.
We're moving past it. Okay, we're done.
Bucky's dead.
Scotty do they kill him?
Oh yeah.
They shove a stake through his heart. It's like the tail end of the hammer thing, and rip off his arm, and he like fades out, and he warns about the serpent before he fades out. Damn.
Oh, and Bucky was
So my note
dating.
for
Bucky was dating
Black Widow.
Black Widow at this time because they dated in
And-
the 50s when he was unfrozen once as a Russian asset.
fine, I guess so. Fear
So
itself
she's
number
upset
4.
about it.
I wrote Steve gets reborn, but that's not Steve. So okay, so but is Bucky's dead?
Oh, well,
We'll get to
no.
7.1. Actually,
All right,
let's just
fine,
say
we'll
what
get to
happened.
that
Okay,
later.
so 7.1.
So hold on.
Let me.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
7.1 is after the event, and Nick Fury said we actually swapped him out at the last second with a life model decoy. So he's fine and he's on the lam, and we did this to trick you so you would become Captain America again, Steve.
Wait,
Right.
he
He
was
may have been injured here.
No. He was very badly injured, and Nick Fury gave him his Infinity Formula, which it's also to set up Nick Fury not looking like Nick Fury anymore. Because they're like, "What'll happen to you, Nick?" And he's like, "Doesn't matter.
We're gonna
Like, I
kill
saved
Nick Fury
Bucky."
later and replace him with
I
Sam
hate this
Jackson. Nick Fury, but that's
I'm
not
so
it. Well,
glad.
it's kind of hinted at in this book, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I saw that coming. I was like, they're setting up for the movies.
I'm so glad I did not read 7.1. God, I wait. That was an option to continue reading afterwards. I'm glad. I
Oh,
did
wait
not.
till you find out what happens in 7.2.
So okay,
7.2
so
is outrageous.
we'll talk about it later. So I because of like I knew Captain America had died, right? I know Steve Rogers had died, so I just thought that the robot arm was part of him coming back. And
like he
then
was like
I
the
thought,
cyborg Superman.
How did you?
And listen,
I
hold
really
on,
don't
hold on.
understand how you didn't get this.
And then I thought the beginning of 4 was them being like, well, he's half robot anyway, so even though he's half dead, we're just gonna bring him back to life, and that's why Steve is fine now. And then I just kept moving on. And I never thought about Bucky once during this book. Oh my god.
Because Bucky never had a scene before this issue.
I guess. But again,
Bucky
if you had been
died.
reading the other Captain America series that has Fear Itself tie-ins, you would know this.
I hate this book. All right. So Thor is gonna
You
kill
have
this
to
serpent.
spend like $50 a month to understand
No.
it.
No.
It's like a
And it's not
video
worth
game
it.
today.
It's not worth it.
Nope. Not
It's
worth
like
Thor-
the base game. You stink at it. You have to unlock. You have to spend $100 to get
it. No.
understanding
oh,
of the
God.
story.
Oh, gotta buy that premium currency. Okay. Thor is gonna kill this serpent, and he's like, but I've seen a prophecy. It's gonna come at the expense of my own life. Iron Man is drinking booze now. I am super lost. I assume this had to do with another thing, but like, give me something to go off of, man. Give me something to work with here.
I mean, that's pretty clear. I thought he's sacrificing something to Odin so that Odin will show up so he can.
Is that
have
what
a
it was?
meeting. Yeah.
Not clear for me. I'm sorry. Well, by this point, I was half
you seem
reading
to
the
have
book.
missed a lot in this because I was like,
I
that's,
missed
that's
a
pretty clear.
ton. I missed
Yeah,
a
that
ton of
that
this
was
book
frustrating though
because
because I think it's like poorly written. I'm like, really? Like this seems to have such like a nonchalant. It didn't seem like big enough. I mean, it was big stakes for Tony, but not written that way in my head. I'm like alcohol has
Yeah,
nothing-
like I didn't feel like I saw any scenes leading up to him making the decision to do that. Like if you're gonna put
Right.
that in this book, I feel like I want some of that. You know?
Again, that's the DeMatteis or Claremont School of Writing is like just have like 5 pages of a character looking at a bottle with like handwritten thought bubbles. That's how you set this up so that everybody knows the stakes.
Yeah.
Better than not setting it up.
Or you could just do it in the Iron Man book and just have him talking to Odin and not explain why is he talking to Odin in this issue.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have him sacrifice anything.
But it's Iron Man is like one of the core characters for some reason. I mean, I know why. It's because they just had a movie came out and they've been pushing Iron Man much harder the last 5 years than the last 45 years of Marvel Comics, where he's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah. So in issue 5, he's talking to Odin. Franklin Richards uses his powers to heal Ben. I didn't say
Thor,
the last
Thor
issue ended with Thor. Yeah, fighting Hulk and the Thing at the same time. Whoa, what a cool fight.
Which would be cool because you're like, could Thor beat the Hulk? Could Thor beat the Thing? Well, he's gonna fight both of them at once, and like that is such like a little kid. 60s, 70s, like everybody's like, what's the power level going to be like? But again, they're possessed by evil monsters. It's not even them. who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Franklin,
Thing gets taken out of the fight because Franklin cures him.
Yeah, Franklin cures him.
Franklin can
It
cure
ends
Asgardian
with
in this?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, he has again, Vince. If you consult your Marvel appendix that we all have, it is text in the issue. Franklin says, "Remember when I told Dad that I lost my reality powers? I lied." So he has the reality changing powers that he created the Avengers, pocket universe that sent all the heroes to after Onslaught. He becomes Galactus in Earth X.
I'm fully okay with Franklin pretty much doing anything.
Yeah.
Canonically.
So yes, he can cure Asgardianness. He can do basically whatever he wants.
So if he rolled up to Donald Blake when he used to like throw sticks at the ground and turn into Thor, he could have stopped that if he wanted to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Franklin is I would say Galactus level powerful. So
Cool.
yeah, he can,
I believe he's officially like an Omega level power or whatever that means.
Yeah.
I feel like
So
an
y'all do
idiot
care about
just
these
saying
power
Omega
levels,
level
okay.
power. My
yeah, he's got very high power levels, Vince.
high power level.
Now he has to charge them up for like 7 or 8 issues normally. So it's
he's like baby
he has
Groot.
to
Or baby yogurt Yoda. Yeah, he just
baby yogurt.
Baby yogurt. Yeah.
He gets tired afterwards.
Yeah.
So and then again, more bad Thor dialogue. He's like, I liked about Ben Grimm. I'm like, who is this that's talking like this?
Hey, him I like.
Hey, if you want more of this style of Thor writing, go check out Matt Fraction's run. He was writing Thor at this time.
That
sounds terrible.
I don't know why Thor talks like he's Mel Brooks. It's so weird.
All right,
because he says he says to Hulk, right? He's like I I did that to Thing, and he's the one I liked. Now I'm gonna fuck you up. Is basically what it's like.
Yeah, and he's like, but you've always been a jerk, and you're like, who are you? Why do you? This isn't even Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Why?
It's a very unusual Thor.
All the Asgardians are way too intense. They are dialed to 11.
Yeah,
it's that fear. It's the fear.
Fear itself. Yeah.
I feel like the fear wasn't even focused on. It was like mentioned so heavily as like we're gonna make you scared, and I thought it was gonna be more literal in terms of like people are maybe seeing their biggest fears or whatever. Or I don't know.
I mean, you do see the serpent guy because he starts being like an old like rundown Odin, and then he becomes powered up Odin, and then he becomes a serpent monster, but he is just like yes more. Speaking of charging power levels, where it's just like the worthy are just like I don't know, smashing things and people are running away. There's a lot of that.
A lot of that.
Well, because have we gotten to the point, or is that in issue 6 where Odin's basically like the serpent is relying on Earth's fear, so we need to destroy Earth, so that the serpent has no power things to grab onto. Is that basically?
I didn't read anything like that because I was very checked out.
Yeah, I think that was earlier, but yeah, that's when he's explaining. I forget who, Nick Fury or somebody. He makes some metaphor about how they're going to sacrifice Earth as part of his plan. But yeah, then Tony, like I said, goes off and works with Odin to make super weapons. Again, it's a little too late in the book for that, but that's what he goes to do.
Right. Oh, that was a cool scene. We skipped over that because Tony's like, I don't give a shit about you, Odin. I just want your workshop. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Yeah, everybody else is gonna get power level boost. It's gonna be fun.
Yep. That's where my quote "Don't push it" comes from. Odin says that, and I was like, Odin says don't push it.
We have Thor got knocked down, I guess, in the fight. He's really hurt badly. Thor. He's like, take me back to Asgard. So they got to carry him home. Cap yells at Odin or something. He's like, hey, this is your damn kid. Bring him back to life. Heal him. You got to, because you're Odin. Then we get a Spider-Man scene all of a sudden with Aunt May and I don't know.
That was stupid. So yeah, Spider-Man in the issue we just skipped over in issue 5, he's like, Cap, I gotta go. And he's like, okay. And then Hawkeye's like, what was that? And he's like, oh, I told him he could stand down. And so he runs away to go make sure his aunt is safe. And then she's like, oh, Spider-Man, what happened? He's like, oh, Peter Parker told me to, I guess because in the 5 years since Civil War, she's already forgotten this. I
Yeah.
Well,
guess,
that happened with On One More Day.
yeah, one more day has already happened. So
Okay.
he's he's like, oh, well, tell us Peter that he has a responsibility, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, right, that's my thing.
And again, the world's about to end. Fucking blow your secret identity to her. No, this is the integrity I gotta have. I gotta keep everybody take this secret to the grave.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny because like like they've Tony and Cap and all these other characters are walking around unmasked, but like Spider-Man is like, no one can know.
Yeah. Yeah. So Odin brings Thor back to full health and gives him some new armor and a nice sword. Yeah. Is this the Iron Man stuff they were talking about?
You make it sound like such a video game. He brings him back to full health and gives him a nice sword.
Yep.
That's pretty much what it is.
There's
Full
my
health
favorite
and
my
sword.
favorite scene in this entire book. I don't know what book it was in. Was when he handed everybody the weapons. I don't know if it
I
was
think
an
that's
Avengers
the
book.
beginning of 7.
There was a legit scene where he gave everybody their weapons and like described it to me in my head. I mean, it's been over a decade.
Like in one of the tie-ins.
It's
As
gotta
far
be
as
one of the
actually
tie-ins,
describing what all the weapons do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We'll find the that'll be our when we find what issue that is. Maybe next year for April Fools, we'll read just
Nope,
that
we're
issue.
done with
just
Fear
the
Itself.
scene.
We're
We're done
done.
with okay. Thank you. I never want to think about this thing again.
You're gonna love Secret Invasion, Kia. It's a
Oh
book
my
that
God,
makes
this
no
is-
sense and ends in a fight that's already over.
It's so fucking bad.
So now
it's
at
all
chapter
setting up.
6,
They're like nobody wants to see a fight.
So we now have a scene where Captain America is which Captain America is this?
Steve.
Steve, the
Because
only
Bucky is dead.
Because Bucky's dead. Thank
Everybody
you.
thinks
Sorry.
Bucky's dead.
Listen. Sorry. I'm very confused.
I do love
Captain
that they
America.
also I don't think you get this, but like every because you had the trade, but every single issue has like a teaser for next issue and like what the tie-ins are. And there's a battle for Heimdall's Observatory in Avengers number 17, and it's got Hawkeye hooking up with Spider-Woman.
Yeah,
Which I didn't know was the status quo.
One thing, you're missing if you're just reading the trade, Kia, is that those were in the actual books. Is they told you like, hey, like these are the other crossovers that are happening.
Why
this
would
month.
they not put it in the trade? I
don't
feel like that needs it more than the. Oh Jesus Christ!
It is on the online issues. The last page is just like, for more on Thor's burial, check out this page. For more on
Maddening.
this, check out this. It's very strange.
Hey, did you know Daredevil's going to join the fight in New Avengers?
Didn't happen. Don't care.
Squirrel Girl runs away with Jessica and Luke's baby, escapes New York.
All right. So Captain America. This is the scene that was in this book that was important enough to include. That Captain America takes a stand with the local militia in Oklahoma, and they've all got shotguns. And Captain America goes, "I'm with y'all now," and they're gonna hold the line against something.
The serpent.
Captain America with a shotgun. That's all that matters. Is that the end of chapter 6?
Yep.
I think so. For chapter 7, I took no notes. I hated this.
Well, everybody gets weapons. So like Red She-Hulk gets I don't know what the fuck her name was, but Betty is a Red Hulk, gets a sword. Miss Marvel, I think.
It's Red Hulk.
Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel. I don't know what Carol's ranking is at this point. She's got a battle axe.
Still Miss Marvel.
Oh, she's in the next book we're gonna read too.
Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange is now here. Previously not been here all the book, but he gets weapons. Wolverine gets like a cool armor. I'm excited for this. Everybody's getting the power boost. This is like the final battle. Everybody's getting cool armor. It's cool.
This is Magneto and Professor X's X-Men running at each other, and then a flash of light.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it dumb?
Great.
Yes.
There was a big serpent, a very very wide.
The serpent, Kia, not just a serpent. He's the.
I'm
serpent.
sorry. It's the serpent, and he's huge, and it's a cool fight. Big serpent.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
And I do think it's so underplayed that I don't think it works as a payoff, because he remembers the first issue when he had the guy that was moving away and all the panic at the riots and whatever. But like they do show like, oh, like these people are like protecting their homes, and then it flashes to like paramedics are helping with this, and like, oh, these people are doing this. So it's just like, no, the serpent hasn't won. There's still helpful people out there in the world. That's kind of like the theme that it's going for. It's just forgotten it for 6 issues, so you're kind of like, oh, good. I'm glad that this worked out.
Yeah. So like everybody's heading into battle. Odin brings some Asgardians into fight. Whatever. Oh, Thor falls here, and Cap picks up his hammer. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be a cool poster for the wall with Thor, Captain America holding the hammer, except there's like a big Nazi logo in the background, which I wouldn't want on my wall.
Yeah. Just take the George Perez Avengers versus JLA. Where he's got Thor's hammer. That's the better one.
It still was an awesome scene in game. I'm glad they waited 23 movies for him to say Avengers Assemble and pick up that hammer.
Yeah, that was cool.
Pretty good.
It was really cool.
I mean, yeah, that last Avengers movie is just armies of people running at each other, but it's pretty fun for that because you know who they are.
Well, and see, that's what's funny though, is because like the Avengers movies crib a lot from this book, or maybe it's just like shit that Marvel does all the time. But I'm like, this sucks, and the movies are good. So what's the difference?
Yeah, it's sort of having that consistency and like knowing the characters and caring about what happens to them. It's not really in this as much because it does feel like they're on the fly trying to like get to the status quo of the movies, so that going forward with Marvel now, they'll be able to have Iron Man and Captain America like ready for their Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. But they have to get to that status quo by like upending all of this stuff. Like it's like we can't do the Asgard and Oklahoma storyline. That's over. So like Odin just goes back to Asgard and like remakes it automatically. Right. We don't even have to think about it anymore. But yeah, so they have a big fight. It's a pretty well. I mean, Stuart Immonen's art, I didn't like it in the Cap death scene. I thought it was kind of sloppy as far as showing what's actually happening because I think it's too widescreen. Mm-hmm. But I like this fight.
His widescreen stuff in Ultimatum with Ultimate Spider-Man is fucking incredible, though. That's some great Eminem art. He also did Next Wave, I think.
Yeah.
They did do Next Wave,
which has that final issue of just like huge like double page splash after double page splash. That's just so silly. Mm-hmm. It's literally a parody of Warren Ellis doing Mark Millar style storytelling. I
had such high hopes for this book because I was like, this is a good team making this book.
It's a very good team. Very good team. What happened?
Yeah, and Eminem was doing. Eminem was doing, I think, Avengers at the time, one of 3 or 4 Avengers titles.
He might have been on the Spider-Man book, honestly. Or no, Sarah Pacelli might have been on there. It's right before Miles Morales is right around the corner.
Yeah, because I thought Eminem was working on Avengers for the first few issues because they've only had like 6 issues of just plain like not new, not mighty.
No,
it
said secret. It was like 17 by this point, but they might have been shipping doubly.
They may have been going twice a month on it. But anyway, so everybody wins. The serpent is killed by Thor, but then Thor dies from getting poisoned by him.
Oh, no. It was a real it was the real prophecy. I don't know if we ever said the serpent is Odin's brother.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. Which is part of which again, Thor Ragnarok does a much better job of like Odin having an extra relative that's evil come back into the picture with Cate Blanchett. Way better than this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I hated this book. I think what was the last worst book we read on the show that we like called the worst book?
Chris hated Maximum Carnage so much.
Maximum Carnage was really bad. But I feel like it was at least more readable than this. This was not readable.
It's April Fool's Day. We're picking the historically bad comics. This is really bad.
Jesus.
Yeah. I feel like I'm sure we've done worse stuff, or at least stuff I hated more than this. I didn't hate this that much. It's not great. It's event comics.
This was rage inducing for me. I really legitimately hated this book. So Ed, what happens at the end? We get a different guy.
Anger leads to fear.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to suffering.
Yeah.
God. Somebody moved into the house.
Yeah, you're powering the serpent right now, Kia. Just think about that.
I don't give a shit. I'm gonna power that serpent as much as I want. This kid, this new family moves in to the Oklahoma house and meets the new neighbor, and they're like, "Hey, we all got to take care of each other." That's how it ends. Is there anything we missed? There was like a funeral for Thor or something.
Yeah, there's a few epilogues at the end of the story. Hulk separates from Banner. Hulk hasn't been in this book, so who cares?
Who cares?
What was the other one?
Sin did something.
Who did something?
Sin. She remembered being powerful, and now she's sad because she's not powerful anymore.
Yeah, who cares?
She didn't factor into this book at all.
Yeah, and then there was one setting up a Defenders book that I was like, what?
There's
like,
two
why?
different Hulk epilogues. This in another age would have been sold as like Marvel .1, like check out the new status quos. Here's an issue, but they decided to put this at the end of this book.
Yeah,
there's two Hulk. There's two conflicting Hulk status quo.
Yeah, they're selling a Hulk book, and then they're also selling a Defenders book featuring the Hulk and Doctor Strange. And he's like, okay. There's so much product to consume. It's gonna be great.
They're kidnapping Marcus Johnson, who's actually Nick Fury's son, who looks a lot like Sam Jackson.
I'm not. All right, so fine. But
wait, Kia. We gotta talk about 7.1 and 7.2.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Talk about it real quick.
I know. That's what I was gonna mention.
And 7.3. Don't forget about that.
Well, 7.3 you said wasn't collected anywhere.
Anywhere that I could find. It's
got to be in the Iron Man book, I have to imagine.
Tell me what happened. Y'all said 7.2 was bad. So 7.1 is where we find out what happened to Bucky, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Bucky not dead. He's going to be in his own book called Winter Soldier, which I think is very good. I didn't like the story very much, but I was like, but I wanted more Winter Soldier at the time. So I was like, okay, you got me. I do want.
And also Brubaker's Captain America fucking sucked by this point. It was like him and Steve McNiven. Oh, no. And it relaunched with a new #1, and it was terrible. Like Brubaker clearly didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I did not like that, and so I was much happier. And like, just let him write Winter Soldier stories where he's just basically having like one-off adventures fighting communists or whatever. Right. Like that's clearly what you want to do. So I was okay with that. 7.2 is Thor's funeral. So yeah, we get to find out all about the funeral preparations, who's going to be there. It's Vince is chuckling. Vince, why don't you say what happens?
Thor comes back from the dead at the end.
But is it Thor? Is it Thor?
Yeah, I think it is. Because no. I think we're going to Jason Aaron's run, right?
It's jerk Thor. It's not actual.
It's Clor. It's not. It's Clor.
Well, no. It's basically he's basically reverting into like a mythological version of a different story. So it's Thor, but it's not our Thor. It's like he's a jerk now. He's like the oafish idiot Thor of the Norse stories, and he has a different name
Chris
now.
Hemsworth. Okay.
Well,
no, because they have that. They have the Tartarus or whatever his name was. That bullshit with Loki. Yeah. But then another Thor shows up at the very end and opens his eyes. Right? That's our Thor.
Yeah, but he's not alive, Vince.
He opens his eyes.
Yeah, but he's not in our plane of existence.
Whoa.
They're going to have to get him out.
But basically, Thor is not dead. Bucky is not dead. Every single status quo change that happened from Fear itself, Major Death was undermined.
Silver Surfer and Loki have to get Thor out of the underworld.
Search for Spock style. Okay, fine.
Yes. So he is dead, but yeah, there's like a jerk Thor. Yeah, not for long. 7.3.
Yeah, 7.3.
7.3 is Iron Man is talking to the Grey Gargoyle. So you probably missed this, Kia. They mentioned, a disaster happened in the city of Paris, but they never show what it is.
I missed everything. Yeah.
The entire city of Paris, the City of Lights, has been turned to stone by the Grey Gargoyle.
What?
Every single person.
So the Louvre, the Mona Lisa is now a statue?
It's literally everyone, and they're like, Shield is going through and like tagging everyone, and Tony Stark is meeting the Grey Gargoyle, who's clearly lost his hammer that made him do this, and he's the Shield agent's like, if you want, you could just kill him. Nobody would care that there wasn't a trial. And Thor, Tony Stark's like, I don't know, like I'll talk to him. And so he kind of lectures him about what's going on. And like, do you understand, that you did this terrible thing that nobody's ever done? You destroyed Paris. Like Hitler couldn't do it. Like, this book brings up Hitler too much. Hitler couldn't do it.
Hitler's not being able to do things.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, these villains have succeeded where Hitler failed, and goes on and on and on, and then So he does all this to Greg Gargoyle, who then like puts his hands together and kind of in a prayer hands. He's like in a intubation tube kind of thing where he can't see or do anything, but he kind of like looks like he wants forgiveness or something. And then Tony's like, well, here's the good news. It's all fine now. So Tony reveals that he prayed to Odin basically about, why would he let this happen? And so Odin is like, okay, I'll make it all go away. And so undoes everything turning into stone. All of Paris comes back to life. They're rude to English tourists, just as God intended. They smoke cigarettes and wear berets. And Tony is like, you got lucky this time, Greg Gargoyle.
So literally everything that happened in this book, anything of consequence, any of the stakes were completely undermined in these 3 issues.
God,
yeah. I love it too because Tony could have just told him like, good news, you're not we're not trying you for mega side or whatever. Because everyone's alive again. So it turned out okay. You're lucky.
Jesus.
What a bunch of garbage. Oh my God. I never want to talk about fear itself again.
So
I have nothing else to say.
The thing is like, so the positive thing about this is that like every Marvel event before this had been heroes versus heroes, like Civil War, World War Hulk, even House of M. Like everything was like heroes fighting heroes. So this was at least some heroes fighting villains. So that was, and Secret Invasion was like, who can you trust? So like this was at least like a return to form in that regard. So that was nice. The book could have been way simpler. I think like if you had just made Sin have Asgardian powers, then that would have brought in Captain America and Thor together in a crossover, and them fighting Sin, and then other villains getting those powers. You don't need to bring the Serpent in at all.
Right.
I think it confuses the story.
Yeah, it would have been so easy, especially because there's the scene where she goes underwater. There's a secret, Nazi bases or whatever. It's like you could have her basically finding like a Hellboy, like dark gods, Lovecraft type thing that powers her up, without it being like, oh, it's Thor's or it's Odin's brother that we never heard about before. Like I feel like just having Sin having this like unlimited power source or whatever, having these other gods, you could still do the Thor stuff you want to do, and have this like this global threat, but then you'd have a villain that you actually don't like, or that you can root against because Sin is a character and you can even have scenes with like Sin's hench people like Crossbones and Baron Zemo or whatever, like not trusting her because she's crazy.
Right.
Like that's, I don't know. I think that's kind of
just a simpler story, but like brings in like her getting like a raised Red Skull level power level. Which again, credit to the MCU that like Nebula is such a nothing character in like everything, but like that's all she was. It was just a character who worked for Thanos, and then it's like Thanos sucks. Right.
Like that's basically all it is. But it builds Thanos up as a character. It's very pro wrestling in a way. But yeah, they do a bad job.
They whiffed on that. Or you could have had a pivot halfway through where Sin is defeated, but then Odin's like, these humans are starting to get into our magic shit. We need to shut it down with the humans. Just kill them all. And then Odin becomes
the bad guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's consistent with his characterization in the beginning. It doesn't, it's pretty easy. Those two things would have fixed it. But the big core thing is none of the characters have emotional stakes. Like at all.
There's just nothing.
It's just like
there's really nothing here to latch onto.
There's no one to care about. There's like Spider-Man having like scenes that Spider-Man doesn't say a goddamn thing of consequence until issue 5, and now he's worried about his aunt. But like, who cares at this point? Like, you didn't make him care. You never established Aunt May before this, unless you're reading these books. Steve is just Captain America. We forgot that Captain America and Steve Rogers were different people.
Well, I didn't forget. Kia forgot.
You didn't forget. Listen. I'm gonna blame everything on this book. It's all the book's fault. None of it's my fault. At all. I'm not to blame.
But to be fair, the Marvel events before this are worse.
Oh yeah, they stink so badly.
Boy.
Secret Invasion.
We're gonna cover them, Kia. Don't you worry.
God damn it! All right, a year from now, we'll meet back here for Secret Invasion for April Fools for possibly a worse event. But this is This was my least favorite comic we've ever covered on the show because it wasn't even fun to talk about. I just hate it. I just hate it.
Immomen's art is nice. Secret Invasions. I've been on record. I don't know. I don't like the sort of sketchy work that Lionel Yu does, and I think
I usually like sketchy stuff. Maybe I'll like that.
It's not Sienkiewicz sketchy. It's not good.
Yeah, and it's bad when you have like big crowd scenes and you don't like differentiate who's who.
You need to know who's who. Okay, that's fair. Probably not. Like I wouldn't want to. God, imagine if Bill Sienkiewicz was writing this and like you just really couldn't identify a goddamn thing. It might be better, actually.
I remember, again, this isn't a review of Secret Invasion, so we shouldn't talk about it more. But I remember online reading somebody's post where they're like, "Oh, I think all the times that he doesn't draw irises and just has white outlines for the eyes, that's a clue that they're a Skrull." I'm like, no, just read Lionel Yu's art. It's just that he doesn't draw anything from a mid. If they're more than 6 feet from the camera, he doesn't draw their eyes.
Just draw it. All right, we should move on to the Avengers comic we're reading with the Korvac Saga here. Is there anything else that we feel like we have to say about Fear itself?
No.
Don't read it. Don't read it.
No, yeah, just watch the last 2 Avengers movies. That is the tone that they're going for, and those Avengers movies are a lot more fun.
So, do you think they read this and like, don't do that, guys? Like, it was a collaborative lesson, but like, don't do this.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right, we're moving.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Kia's done. Kia, this one broke.
I'm done. We're moving on to Avengers. And by like comparatively, like this Avengers book wasn't great or anything, but I fucking loved it. God, it was like an oasis in a desert in terms of like, give me something. Give me anything.
You know who every single one of these characters are, Kia. You must be so happy.
Oh my God, I loved it.
Even the new one, they make sure to explain who she is and what her powers are.
Fuck, and there was the dumbest fucking side plot in this book, and I lapped it up. It was all I wanted. I needed it. Okay, so where are we at here? We're reading the Korvac Saga for the Avengers, and this book probably has the least to do with the Korvac Saga than anything else we've read. It feels like we're really reading. We're going to be reading the Korvac Saga, and we're also reading the storyline that came before that is introducing bits and pieces of Korvac Saga stuff. It's all blending together a little bit.
Right. The Guardians of the Galaxy traveling back in time and all that is like setting up for it.
And I'm really excited just about I like how comics used to be in terms of like there's always something happening. And we're always, again, this is also very pro wrestling in terms of like, yeah, there's this current big thing that's happening, but we're also building to the next big thing. And in that way, there's always something that's like at its beginning, something at its middle, and something at its end, all that kind of good stuff.
Now I'm just picturing, Captain America pointing at a sign that says Korvac.
Korvac, we're coming up. We're on the road to Korvac. All right. So sorry, Vince won't get that, but fucking WWE, they're bullshit.
Vince is just a thing where whenever like they win the Royal Rumble, they just point at a sign. They're like, oh, that means they want to go to WrestleMania.
We're going to WrestleMania. That's what's coming up next. Amazing. We're on our way. So right now we're just dealing with Jocasta. It was a very early issue where we met a very early episode of this show where we met Jocasta, Ultron's wife. And I don't think I think they finally name her in this issue. They hadn't named her before in the last one. But the Avengers met her last time. She has left the mansion. They didn't want to destroy her because they were hoping that she would lead them back to Ultron, right? And so they are following her. And we get a lot of people on the street right off the bat. And they're like, hey, I saw this robot. Oh, my God, I'm talking to the Avengers. I'm helping them. They're like, yeah, this robot lady was walking down the street. And also there's like this other lady who's like talking to Scarlet Witch and going like, wow, you've got great curves. You should be a model. and Scarlet Witch is like, okay, cool. But I got to like go help the Avengers here. So they go. But then we kind of follow this lady for a little while. In a way, I just like didn't expect this, and I loved it. She works at like a clothing store, and she's like, "Oh my God, I gotta hurry back to the store. There's a client waiting, and she's naked in the dressing room, and I've left her there."
I like
runs back.
The thought bubble for her assistant. That's like,
oh my God, the assistant.
Like, you don't, why do you get a thought bubble? We don't even know your name.
Are we supposed to care that she might get a promotion if her boss gets fired?
I'm invested 100% more invested in that thought bubble than anything we read in Fear itself right there.
This book is only 18 pages, by the way, and one of these pages
so much
is spent on this.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, Ultron is such a, like, whatever. Like, this is not an Ultron story.
George Perez
Really
is like,
not.
yo, I'm gonna draw Miss Marvel half naked in a dressing room for a page, and like, fine, George,
yes.
fucking A, okay.
So it's Miss Marvel in the dressing room. She's half naked. The old lady gets back and she's like, "Whoa, I saw you naked. You've got great curves. You should be a model." This lady definitely has a one-track mind.
Great
oh man. What
a well-shaped, firm figure she has. Maybe she'd consider modeling.
Like who is this lady?
She needs athletic models that look like Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
It's just
so. I mean, they're both smoking babes. I get it.
They are both superheroes. Yeah. So then Carol Danvers is like, "Oh, geez, there's stuff happening. I gotta run." And so she flies out of there in her costume, but like leaves her clothes there. So the old lady's like, "Where'd she go? Why'd she leave her clothes? What happened?" Good stuff.
so strange.
Very strange. So she hooks up with the Avengers, and they're all. I guess they lost Jocasta, and so they're back at the base, and they're like, "Yeah, we've got a tracker on her though. It's fine. We're gonna go after her." And Captain Marvel's.
I do like Miss Marvel also says like, "Oh shit." Like, I'm supposed to be like working on the next issue of Woman magazine. Jameson's gonna fire me, which I really like the idea that one, Jameson's a publisher, which we established in Amazing Spider-Man, that he publishes multiple books and magazines and papers. And also, like, she also works for Jameson. I don't know Carol's other, like, status quo elsewhere, but I'm like, that's a cool touch.
Well, yeah, like, wasn't she, like, a Air Force pilot or something?
She was when she was introduced in Captain Marvel. She was, like, security on a Air Force base. But when Ms. Marvel debuted, she became a writer, and she was working on a magazine for J. Jonah Jameson.
What was it called? Was it called Woman Magazine?
Oh, yeah, you know
which
it.
is probably equivalent of, like, Ms. Magazine, which was, like, Gloria Steinem's book or magazine or something at the time.
I was going to say, Kia, I don't know if you picked up on the subtle clues, but Ms. Marvel's gimmick is she's a second wave feminist. So she's very pushy and rude to everyone.
Okay. Great. So
which Beast does not seem to like.
So they also they've been questioning people. They could do questions like some drunk who's like, "Yeah, I saw the robot lady. She was with a penguin." And they're like, "Oh god, this guy's drunk." But it really was a penguin. It was a nun who was driving Jocasta to Ultron, right? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's very weird to see Jocasta sitting in the back of a car being driven to Ultron, like she just called an Uber
robot.
or something.
But
I don't know. But I like it.
Very depowered, I guess.
Yeah. So they so the Avengers head to where they've tracked Jocasta, and it's like this church where this nun is hanging out or something. And they talk to this nun for a second, and she speaks perfect English, but Beast has the biggest shit-eating grin on his face when he was like, "Oh, let me fill you in on what's going on in Latin," and he like just talks Latin at her, and like, shut up, Beast. God
it is Beast being very like try hard. We also skipped over the scene when Vince referenced it's Captain America or a patriotic pickpocket.
That was the first page, yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Beast at the same time, like a bunch of like groupies are like giving him, keys to their apartments or whatever. Like everyone seems to be in love with the Beast.
Yeah, very interesting. So
he's like super hot, like Teen Wolf.
He does dunk a basketball like Teen Wolf, or he could.
I bet he could. Yeah. I would like to. I think the Beast is a good role model in general, even if he does get a little annoying with the Latin and all that stuff.
I don't know. Based on Beast's behavior, I think he's having some of those strange cigarettes that smell bad.
Ooh, yeah.
Those jazz
the jazz
cigarettes.
Yes, jazz cigarettes.
they go and they fight Ultron in this little mansion there for a little bit. What's going on with Scarlet Witch? Like wakes up in a room full of mirrors.
Transported.
Yeah. Yeah, Ultron's clever. He's like, look, I got to get rid of the one. There's only one Avenger who can really mess me up. So I'm just going to kidnap her when no one's looking.
Okay. So she gets sent away so that she's not as big of a threat. And then they fight this. What's the nun's name? Eucalypta is her name.
Sister Eucalypta, yeah.
Sister Eucalypta, thank you. And Carol Danvers punches off her head, and she was a robot, of course. Amazing.
Panel of the week. Punching a nun's head. Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, punching a nun's head off. Why is that not in a movie yet?
It's good stuff.
She does know. It's not a surprise to her because she says, I've never been shot at by a nun before, but you're not a sister, are you? You're a robot. So she knows that when
it's
she
not
punches...
a you're a robot question mark. It's an exclamation point. Like she's already figured this out.
She had figured it out. Yeah.
So the robot nun drove the robot lady in the car.
Yes, that's right. To the head robot, Ultron.
The head robot. That's good. So we then get a little scene where Ultron is like over Jocasta's body, and Jocasta's like, "Oh, I love you. I'm sworn to you." And Ultron says, "I have to destroy you." Or wait, was it the other way around?
Yeah, Jocasta is going to destroy Ultron.
Yeah. She's partially Janet Pym or Janet Van Dyne or whatever her name is at this point.
Yeah.
So she's
and then what happens here?
I love that he blames Hank Pym. He's like, the residual imprint of the wasp. I have to do the voice. The residual imprint of the wasp's persona. It has infected you with her wretched human fear. Fear and hate propagated by my cursed father. It's like, wait, so because she's good, that's Hank Pym's fault?
Yep.
Like,
there was also an earlier scene where Hank's like, I don't think I'm going to fall for her just because she like has your personality. I'm like, just because the robot has your personality doesn't mean you need to fuck the robot, man. Like, you don't need to come out and say that. Like, just keep that. That's an inside thought, man.
Yeah. Well, and Scarlet Witch is right there, and like Vision and Wonder Man are like right there. Wow. They have the same brain, so
yeah, it's good stuff.
This is it's really not knowing your audience of your own teammates who have slept with people who share brains with other teammates.
You get it, Wonder Man. You know what I mean.
Man,
you know what.
The Avengers are fucked up right now. God damn.
But you know what? There's better emotional stakes still.
There's so much here.
I do like to Wonder Man's cowardice. He's like, why am I standing in the back? Like, if Ultron should shoot at anybody, it should be me. I'll be fine. He's like, Cap, get out of the way. And they're like, no, you stay in the back, Wonder Man.
Yeah. Okay, so Scarlet Witch gets free and she shows up and she's like, I'm gonna defeat you, Ultron. Wait, did Jocasta just like stop trying to kill him first? I don't know. Everything's fine at the end, right? They beat Ultron and that's it. Scarlet Witch is free and she's the one who does it.
Jocasta's not seeing another panel. I don't know what. After she said, "Damn him,"
I don't know what happened to her.
Yeah, she's gone. Yeah, Beast on the last page says, "Hey, the Tin Lady, she vanished."
Okay.
So she disappears while they're launching Ultron's energy into space or whatever they're doing.
Got it. Great, amazing. And that's it.
Well, and then Cap disappears. The thing that keeps happening, where Thor and Cap and everyone linking out.
Happened with the Two Gun Kid. It happened with Thor. Yeah, and we get next issue, Holocaust in the Hudson. Lots of Nazis today. Hawkeye returns. The Avengers face deadlier perils than before. Yeah, good stuff. So hopefully some more. Go ahead.
They're on the road to Korvac. Scarlet Witch stands up and points, and that's how you know.
Yeah, hopefully we get some more Korvac build next time. But no, I mean, we joke about how this has nothing to do with the Korvac saga, but I really do like how it is. It's just nice to kind of see how these storylines progressed back then, and they were very much less written for the trade. And I kind of like it that way. I like the long-term, that sort of long-term approach to storytelling where You just have different aspects of every story coming in all at once. Even though this one was so much more heavily focused on Ultron, I still liked it. It was fun to read.
Yeah, I think this is either right before or pretty current. I think it's before Dark Phoenix, but the Dark Phoenix saga, famously, like the first 2 issues is basically just fighting the Hellfire Club, and the Dark Phoenix is there, and they're like, oh, we've tricked her into joining us, and she's like, no, not really. Like,
Nah.
I just wanted to see what you guys were up to, and then it turns into all the cosmic stuff that everyone knows the story for. So it is, that's the way that comics were back then. Is even if you had, this is like I'm wrapping the story up at a big anniversary or in like 6 months. I can't just like have the story be going for 6 months. I have to have like a little 2-month break here and there or whatever.
Yeah. So anything else we want to say about Avengers here?
Nope. No Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, in this issue, though. I think they've been
no Guardians at all. Yeah, this one really had the least to do with the Korvac saga than any of the others that we've read. Just like not even a hint of it. I thought maybe for a second that like old lady's assistant was somebody related to that Korvac guy and all his like ladies that he's collecting or whatever. And no, it was just an assistant who wanted her boss's job, and that's it.
Yeah. Korvac, much like that lady, he's always looking for shapely models to bring to his house.
That was part of it. That was why I was like, is that old lady Korvac? There's so my brain was working in a million different directions here, but
anyone could be Korvac at any time.
Any time, I don't know. All right, so what are we doing next month? Is April just like the month of bad comics that I'm gonna hate reading?
That's right.
What we're doing now?
Yep.
Great. Well,
our special guest suggested this next one though.
Yeah, and you know what? I do.
Yeah, yell at him, not us.
There's a lot of fun to be had with this next one. We are reading next time on the show All-Star Batman and Robin number 1 through 6 by Frank Miller and Jim Lee, which is a reimagining
Batman.
I'm the goddamn Batman, and so much just Batman distilled into pure Frank Miller. And you know what? We're gonna read it next time. We're gonna go from there. We're probably gonna have a special guest named Nick, unless anything.
A real noble guest.
We should. What's that?
Oh, it's a pun on his last name, being noble. He's
he's
got a stupid mind.
Guest. Yeah, he's a real dynamite guest.
I'm not sure what
Alfred Nobel blew up. He invented dynamite.
God damn it! What? So Nick is going to be on the show with us next time to discuss All-Star Batman and Robin. Is he going to read Avengers number 172? He's going to be lost.
Yeah, I'm going to make him.
Yeah, make him read Avengers 172, even if he is going to be lost. I mean, we just finished this Ultron stuff, so it's probably a good place for him to jump in on. I say that not having read the issue, so who knows. And yeah, All-Star Batman and Robin. What year was this from? Like
4 or 5, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's from a number of years.
There ended up being 9 or 10 issues total. We're just gonna read the first 6 because that's enough. And we'll talk about it, and we will probably do lots of Batman voices, lots of grimdark Batman, lots of. I'm trying to remember how much of this I read back in the day. We'll have to see.
I stopped reading. I definitely own them all, but I don't think I even read all of them.
There were just so many delays with this series that.
We'll get into it. I don't know if we're gonna get to the issue with Joker with the big Yakuza tattoo on his back, like Yakuza Dragon tattoo.
Oh yeah,
I hope we get to that. That sounds great.
His bodyguard with like the body tape over her nipples.
Oh, what? Good times.
Yep. Good times. So
it's gonna be a bad comic. It's a historically bad comic. April Fools.
Historically bad comic. April Fools. Oh boy. God damn it! Why April are we just gonna have it a tradition that April is like a torture month from now on, and we're gonna have a terrible time reading? Okay, fine.
The mission of this book, this show, is to read like historically classic comics. And that includes the bad, which we've been avoiding this whole time.
Yeah, we read the comics that others won't. That's our new tagline. So I'm just gonna end the show. Okay, we got to plug our other stuff that's going on here. Vince, have you done another episode of your video
Yes,
game thing yet?
that was a game on our YouTube channel. All my friends are right here. I recently covered Super Mario Brothers 3E, which is the
What?
extra E-card levels that were only available by scanning
Oh
barcodes into a Game Boy
yeah,
Advance. I mentioned it last episode. It's come out
you
since then.
did. You did.
And I'm working now, and hopefully this will be out before the next episode. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Game Gear. A very fun game. So
Okay.
we'll get at that. Yep.
Great.
Check it out.
Chris, what do you got with your stupid binds? Along with Nick, who does that show with you.
Yes. Our latest episode is the Sorcerer's Apprentice, as we continue to go through Disney's like dark period of trying to find YA stuff to sell to kids before they just gave up and bought Marvel and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The Sorcerer's Apprentice was a Nick Cage movie that is, I guess he was able to trick them into thinking this was an adaptation of the Fantasia sequence. It's not. It's not. It has one scene that's kind of like that, and then the rest of it's just a bunch of like gobbledygook about Merlin and Morgan Le Fay, and people shooting beams at each other. So it's a lot of fun to talk about. We do a lot of impressions. And it's a lot of fun. And also, people, if they want a special guest episode, we did Staying Alive before that one with Catherine Coldiron, a like real critic and published author who's been on bigger podcasts than ours. And so it was very fun to talk with her about Staying Alive, a bonkers bad movie.
Saturday Night Live 2, directed by Sylvester Stallone. Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever, yes.
Not Saturday Night Live. Sorry, tripped over my own joke.
That's all right. I could do with Sylvester Stallone directing a full episode of
Saturday Night Live spin-off show.
Yes, a sequel show
by Sylvester Stallone. No, that'd be terrible.
Oh man,
worse than Staying Alive. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty bad idea. He should just host Weekend Update. That'd be better. And yeah, I've got nothing else except I've just been playing a ton of Elden Ring. It's a damn good game. I love it. That's it. That's all I got to plug. Listener, we love you. Thank you so much. Vince, thank you. I love you.
I love you, and I'm sorry this episode broke you.
That's okay. Chris, I love you.
Don't push it.
God damn it. Listener, I think I already said I love you. This episode broke me. I did it all out of order. It's we're ending the show. Bye.